Wine is the story of a year, captured in a bottle. Each bottle has a story to tell, a winemaker's passion for a style or varietal, the variations of soil, giving character to the wine. This is different for each region, for each vineyard. All of this meshes together as we create memories of the places we've discovered, the people we've met, the conversations we had. All this is weaved into magical moments and stories to be shared. All of this comes together in the journey of discovering wine country. Valtènesi is on the southwestern shore of Lake Garda, Italy's largest lake. When we visited in late September of 2022 with the Wine Media Conference, we met Nicole Vizzola in front of the new winery expansion, built in 2020.
Sometimes we focus a lot on the wines and the labels and everything, but without great grapes, you cannot make great wines, and that's a fact. This is a Cappello Gentile. It's almost like an hectare and a half that you see going back up here. It's one of our historical vineyards. Some of them, obviously, they've been replanted, but most of them, they are also 40, 45 years of age. And it's a vineyard that my father planted with my grandpa. Back at the time with the horses, not to be chic and alternative, but no money for tractors, as my father liked to underline, because also he was the one pushing down. I don't know how to say in English, but he was the one pushing down plowing. So he was not having fun.
Nope.
So obviously harvest already it's finished. We already have some parcels with grapes on because we have a late harvest for Palma Argentina, which is a dessert wine that we will harvest probably in the mid-October. But for the rest, the Valtènesi harvest is basically completed and finished. We work with a biodynamic approach, so we try to work more and more on what's the field and the terroir in order to re-enrich it more and more, but also in order to grow our roots deeper and deeper. Concerning this year, where we really had a lot of scarcity of water, as you probably heard, consider that in 210 days, we only receive around 60 millimeters of water, which I do not convert in inches. So that was the problem. By working a lot on the roots and on the terroir, we are able to really grow deeper and deeper our roots. So we didn't really have to irrigate this summer. We only had to do it in the youngest parcels that we have, because we recently planted some Chardonnay and Pinot Noir on the other side of the hill for our sparkling, where it's a little bit more cold. And so they are vineyards of like maybe 4 or 5 years old, so they are too young, so they needed a little bit of help. We work almost 400 hours per hectare of work, because we normally do pretty much all the most parts by hand, so harvest obviously by hand. Consider that we work with the same approach of the classical method by producing the Rosamara. Rosamara is a Valtènesi Rosé, but it's created by blend. So we vinify separately all the different parcels, and then in February we blend them together. So by having parcels and vines with very deep roots, we are actually able to extract more and more the personality of our plots. Okay, so that's the broad idea. Let's get inside. So this is, I cannot say this is the historical winery, because it's every winery. We started over to my grandparents' house in the city in Moniga. It's not a city, it's mostly a village. But then it was getting a little bit too crowded, especially during the harvest and everything. It was like in downtown Moniga, so it was too complicated. So at the end of the 90s, my grandma asked my father and my uncle to move out with the winery, and they started to build this place. And we have that mirror, Vizzola Mattia and Figli, it's actually my grandpa, telephone number 14. So we
wow, that's crazy.
The 14th family in the surrounding with a phone. And I always like really to pay attention to this mirror, because you notice the shades of wines that we were producing already.
Yeah.
So Rosé was already part not only of our family, but on our terroir and appellation here.
Yeah.
So it's for us as Valtènesi extremely important to underline the fact that for us it's not a color, it's a wine, and we should interpret an identity. And sometimes when I talk to other producers from other regions, like the south of Italy, for instance, when they say, "Oh, I would like to have a colors like yours because this is the trend, pale Côte de Provence style." No, because if we are fighting by saying that rosé is not a color, then you should not do it like mine just because it's a trend.
Right.
You would never ask to a Pinot Noir to have the same color of a Cabernet. You would never ask to a Barolo to have the same color of a Chianti. Different grapes, different area, different climate, different terroir,
Right.
different wine, different color. And that's the same idea that we have to promote and share more and more. To never judge a rosé by its color. Having a very light and pale rosé is extremely easy if you make it as a color. Just don't let maceration for too long and you're done.
Right.
But then what's the quality of your grapes first? And which kind of character and profile you want to have in your wine? Because within the skin, it's not that you only have the pigmentation, so the color, but you will still have all the taste, the saltiness, the minerality, the organoleptic flavors. A lot of that traits are within the skin. So it's not only a matter of saying like, oh, I do a very short maceration. It's like, can you manage in a very short maceration to extract the profile and the identity of your wine? That's the turning point between having a color and a wine. And that's the prejudice that we have to break.
So do you produce rosés that are both richer color and lighter color?
The thing is, we are in the same parallel of Côte de Provence. So it's very hard for us to make super strong, colorful rosé. We have some, there are some winery, for instance, that they have darker color than us. But that's okay, because maybe they have more Marzemino. Marzemino has a stronger color compared to Gruppello Gentile,
Right.
so it's normal. We work mostly with Gruppello Gentile, so 50% of our blend is Gruppello. Gruppello doesn't have a lot of color, so for us it's easier to have a lighter color. Is Rosamara the same every year and every vintage? No. We do not copy-paste vintages, so the color and the nuances will be slightly different every year. Otherwise, we will come to you with a pantone of color, and then you choose the color that you prefer. So it's a completely different approach. And we have to try to really protect the diversity of this industry of rosé, because it just barely became a wine in a category. Before it was almost like a soft drink. Okay, so it became a category of wine. There is a market, it's exploding, but there's still not a lot of knowledge shared. A lot of people still think it's a white and red and shake it, and yeah, rosé wine. I'm like, yeah, no.
And put frozen
Fruit inside, exactly. So it's really about culture. What I usually like to really stress about it's a cultural revolution that started within the winery first, because we had to really take pride and also knowledge about our history and identity, and then try to bring that out to you. You know, in order to make a rosé wine, a great rosé wine, you have to give up almost half of your production. If you harvest 10 kilos of red grapes and then you make a red wine, you have a 75% yield, roughly, then depend. Then, if you have the same 10 kilos of red grapes and you want to produce a great rosé wine, you have between a 55-58% yield. So, imagine after the Second World War, the priority was not having great rosé wines. Here we don't have princes and kings and this kind of wealth. Here we were farmers. So the priority was having food on the table and sending the kids to school. My father was the first one going to school. My grandma has the third years of elementary school.
Wow.
So, you know, it was hard to accept that you had to work 12 months, 11 months in the vineyards, and then once you were collecting your grapes, harvesting your grape, you would basically have to give up half of it. So that's why I was saying it's a cultural revolution that started before within us. So the new generation arrived, my father, for instance, and the fathers of Paula and Paolo, that started break the idea and start, you know, this little tiny revolution. And now we are trying to go back and out to you to share a little bit more of the knowledge of rosé wine, because there is history. We started here in 1896, which is like 130 years ago almost. So it's not something that we decided to do. It's like if you are in Alba, there is truffle. If you are in Parma, you have ham. If you are in Valtènesi, there is rosé. So we have to try to connect more and more. So our dream would be saying, it's a Valtènesi, period. Like you would say, it's a Barolo. You don't have to say, it's a red Barolo. Oh, really?
Yeah.
No. That idea. Okay? Let's go into unification.